I knew this route by heart. 2 raps on the door, then 3, followed by "Hola, muy buenas tardes," through my native accent. Native to South Carolina, that is. Crumbs of galleta fell from her plump cheeks as she locked eyes with a funny gringa at the door. Across the room sat her son, absorbed in the world of his sacred afternoon routine. We exchanged pleasantries as her day's anxieties quickly surfaced. I recognized the imperceptible tightness in her face, holding back what might be an eternity of tears. She poured herself out each day, giving her son all that she could before he was transported to school to begin another day of learning. He trudged heavily up the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, taking his seat while prayers in her native Spanish covered him. "Por favor," she answered when I offered to attend the upcoming IEP meeting at her son's school after translating the letter sent home in English with notice so short that her anxiety started to make its way into my mind too. "Sí, yo estaré consigo," I said quickly before losing the nerve to commit. 2 waves quickly crashed down in the room. She exhaled, "Gracias," and we walked together to get our visitors' passes. "IEP meeting," I stated, and we were given our passes and directions, in English, to the conference room where the administrators, staff, and professional team members were esperándonos, though we had both arrived ahead of the start time in the letter. Introductions quickly began, and a wave of relief washed over me as he introduced himself. "El intérprete. At least that makes 3 of us," I thought. Overfilled schedules, intentions of leaving partway through the meeting were announced. Expertise and knowledge of her son limited to their 2 to 3 minute summaries. Frustrated by this meeting before it had really even begun, I started taking notes, writing furiously as the information poured out from the experts. Intermittent flurries of Spanish traveled across the table with such sparse detail, I was glad I'd been taking notes, wondering when El Intérprete would share. 1, 2, 3 left the room, and suddenly the teacher, vice principal, and El Intérprete's chairs were the only ones still filled apart from ours. Her caramel-colored cheeks had changed to a warmer, reddish hue as the teacher's explanation of her son's limited participation and motivation was interpreted into Spanish with a cool indifference in El Intérprete's voice. Before I knew it, tears in her voice rose above the tenuous narrative being relayed, filling the vacuous room as she spoke with authority in her native tongue, citing poor communication, failures on the teacher's part the year prior, and the empty promises the teacher made to support her son over the summer. A paltry, anemic summary was offered by El Intérprete, leaving me with doubt about what meeting he was attending. I could feel my heart rate rising, an outcry of injustice to set the record straight. Taking in the detail of her worried expression, the casual posture of El Intérprete, the now worried expression of the teacher, and the suspiciously raised eyebrow of the vice principal, I knew all that was at stake for her son, and the chasm between what had been communicated and what had been interpreted. "That's not all she said," I exclaimed loudly, powerfully looking across the table at El Intérprete, turning my head toward the vice principal. With those 5 words, emotional shrapnel flew through the conference room as blood drained from El Intérprete's face. A mother's deepest fears were validated, a teacher's empty promises were exposed, and an administrator's suspicions of a student's barriers to learning were confirmed. I thought I wasn't getting the whole story. What exactly did she say? Locking eyes with El Intérprete across the table, I dared him to not interpret every word. We exchanged a knowing glance that I was oyendo a cada palabra, so he'd better be precise and he'd better be thorough. For what was likely the first time, she was able to share her knowledge and expertise of her son, and she was heard. The IEP would not be finalized that day. The vice principal offered a fully staffed follow-up meeting on a date of the mother's choice. A sincere apology for what had almost transpired. A casualty of federally guaranteed services and supports for her son lost to miscommunication. Now I sit at a desk in another part of the city, still working to support families, including ones learning English and their relationship to their school communities. With shared commitment to build trusted partnerships with school communities, stories like this one are becoming la excepción instead of la norma.